cafes offer inviting spaces where you can bank, get answers to your financial questions, recharge your devices, and connect to on-the-house Wi-Fi, all with a handcrafted Pete's beverage in hand. Capital One cardholders get 50% off Pete's handcrafted beverages every day. With extended hours, ATMs, and plenty of space to get comfortable, Capital One cafes are built to fit your life. Hey, I'm Angela, and welcome to Creative Disruption. This series was created for the innovations and the challenges that came out of last year. Whether you're a freelancer, a side hustler, just starting out in business, or maybe you've had 20 years in, it doesn't matter. The whole point of Creative Disruption is to talk about how to grow, how to pivot, and how to adapt. In this series, you're going to learn about ways to manage cash flow, best insights on personal branding, and ways to market your business. And I know that if you're like me, you always want to learn, you always want to grow. So I'm really looking forward to sharing Creative Disruption with you.
Absolutely. Business is not stagnant. It's ever evolving. Nothing will ever be the same, not from the previous year to the next. So it is important that we do build our own platforms. And I think that people are going to go directly to their trusted source for all of their news. So they're going to go to their beautician for their health and beauty updates. They're going to go to their physician's pages for their medical updates. They're going to go to the car dealership or mechanic that they trust to get, hot tips on how to keep your car running well and the longevity. I think that people want to feel that connection, that emotional connection with the people that they trust.
Some folks believe entrepreneurs happen overnight. That does not happen. And it is not easy. It is a 24-hour, 7-day a week thing. But also the misconception is that you don't need rest. You need rest. I need to be more committed to resting so then I can go and wake up the next day to continue to produce things, continue to encourage others, continue to write more, because there's a prequel of the Swedish Girl that I'm writing now, but I also have to make syllabi. I also have to prepare for the other projects we're doing, and I'm a father of 4. So entrepreneurs, we're not superheroes, right? We're normal human beings. We bleed just like everyone else, but you also need, biggest misconception is that you're in it by yourself. You are not, and you cannot be successful if you do it on your own.
It was not easy, but with every hardship, we can learn really valuable, good lessons. Being kind to each other, being kind to your animals, to the plants, and to the planet in general.
It all gave us time to really reflect on it, besides reflecting on ourselves too and what we thought. So, I think that Nune's right. I mean, we all need to be a little bit kinder to each other, or hopefully that we've learned.
The biggest thing I've learned about brands is you got to stick with it. Whatever you're about, whatever your initial idea was, whatever your niche, stick with that. Do not get diluted. The temptation is so big to get diluted. And what I mean by that is, as soon as you roll into the business, you're going to feel, I wasn't as busy today. If I start adding pizzas on my menu, maybe I'll get busier. Maybe if I do this, what the person across the street's doing. No, people don't want that. Stick in your lane. You don't need everybody. We do. I mean, only if you're trying to compete with like Amazon or something. But I think you truly don't need anyone. And we're in a beautiful country where there's a lot of people with a lot of financial capabilities. So you just need a section. You're going after that little part of the business that is yours. Find the people that love what you love. That would be my biggest advice is we all love brands that when they became mainstream, they become diluted. And then you get disappointed. You're like, I used to love that brand when they were cool. Well, when they were really about that one thing that they had originally.
Simple advice is communicate with your colleagues and brainstorm together. And, when I was president of the Florida Professional Theaters Association, I started having meetings throughout the state, and there was never any particular agenda. The understanding was we were going to sit around a table and share our success stories and share our challenges and come up with solutions together. And, that old saying, stronger together. So there's strength in collaboration. And that's the other thing that we're going to find during this pandemic. And I failed to mention this earlier, is the production that I did, that we filmed, was a co-production with Actors Playhouse in Miami. And the reason I decided to do that was because we do not share an audience, and we could share expenses. And now their audience is being exposed to DramaWorks, and DramaWorks' audience is getting exposed to Actors Playhouse. And I think you're going to find in the future there's going to be a lot of collaborations with theater companies, because the whole spirit in the community throughout the country has changed.
Hey everybody, it's Jessie. Hey, it's Angela, and I hope you enjoyed that recap of the Creative Disruption series. And for this episode, we really want to talk about all the things that we just learned and kind of encapsulate it into how do we actually sell now? We've talked about personal branding, how to be a solution-driven entrepreneur, how to use live streaming. We've talked about all these skills, but now I would like to talk about a way to really implement that. And so now it's time to get out your pen and paper so we can start talking about ways that, in our opinion, I think has really worked for us over the years, is really build relationships and also selling authentically. So the first thing is you really need to figure out what it is that makes people buy, right? Why do some brands or companies in general just excel and do really well at getting new clients in? And why do others sometimes fall short? And you need to know what it is you have to do to be one of those companies and businesses that's consistently acquiring new clients.
The goal should be to create retention and loyalty, because as we know, it costs a lot less to keep an existing client than it does to constantly be trying to churn and get new clients. So the more you can demonstrate that you can create an amazing brand experience, the more likely they are to become advocates and ambassadors of your brand and continue bringing new clients into your ecosystem.
Absolutely. And a good example of that with our business is that we have clients that we worked with since the first day we started our magazine, but actually have done other projects with us as we've continued to grow. So that's a perfect example of you saying, keeping your clients happy and then having different opportunities to offer them as your business grows or expands is so much more cost effective. So we're going to talk today about how to use storytelling to sell authentically, how you can create a brand story, and also ways that you can actually humanize yourself and how to really build relationships.
In order to know what people want, you have to start thinking about a few things in particular. What does my ideal customer actually want? What does my ideal customer actually need? And what will I do to help them understand that I can solve both of those things?
Yeah, and this is where we're really talking about something called your ICA, which is your ideal customer avatar. And this is who you're thinking about all the time when you sell. Because obviously you're not selling to everyone, or you'd be selling to no one, right?
Exactly.
Unless maybe you're like Amazon, I guess. That would be the exception to the rule. So in this situation, you're thinking about what we can call them ICA. Your ICA really wants. What do they need? And how are you actually the problem solver for all of those things?
Now we're going to talk about the brand experience. And the brand experience is what draws people in, keeps them engaged, and keeps them wanting more. So if we bring up what you just talked about, Amazon, their brand experience is very easy for most of us to understand and why they keep us going. I mean, they literally make it easy for you to keep buying by using Prime. You don't have to keep re-entering information. You know the entire experience of how you click things. They do one-click buying. I mean, we don't all have to strive to be Amazon, obviously, but what are you doing to humanize your brand?
What we're doing is we're taking what large companies, large organizations do, and how do you bite-size that down and say, how do I apply this to my company? Because I don't want you to say, well, that sounds great. Amazon's doing it. How do I do it? And believe me, we're thinking the same thing. So we're just taking bite-sized chunks of what works and how you apply it yourself. So some things you can think about to have an experience for your business and your brand is thinking about how do people respond when they see your brand or your logo or your website and when you put it out there on social media. What are the behaviors and feelings that you want people to feel? Do you want them to feel excitement? Do you want them to feel scared? Do you want it not? Maybe it's Halloween, right? Yeah, you're scared. What is that emotion you're evoking out of them? And what turns your customers, into those loyal returning clients, and you make sure you draft it from the point of view of your audience.
But also it's something that if you brush this aside, this is something that other people will be writing for you. You know what I'm saying? If you're not thinking about the brand experience and thinking about, the whole story that you're trying to tell, people are just going to start making assumptions. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what is important to you. You have to make it easy for them to understand. Like I said before, the cost of acquiring a customer is a lot less than the cost of losing one. We'll read that again, or I'll say it in a different way. It costs more money to constantly be acquiring new clients as opposed to making sure the clients that you do have are happy. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking to grow a business that actually has legs and you want to be around for a really long time, the brand experience plays a major role in all of this.
So I found a good example of a brand experience called Imperfect Foods, and they deliver groceries on a mission to fight food waste and build a better food system for everyone. So why this is important, if you're looking at this and saying, how does this apply to me? Well, they're using the narrative of what they consider ugly foods that would be normally discarded and put these little eyes on them, and they made a photo shoot out of it.
They humanized them.
And they humanized the vegetables, exactly. So that is a good example of taking what would be something mundane,
right,
or not interesting and fun at all, and putting a story behind it.
Some anthropomorphic vegetables might make people want to buy. I mean, it makes me interested.
Your potential customers won't interact with your brand unless they get a clear sense of who you really are. And so a well-designed logo is important, and a solid brand voice is important, and other branded assets, because those are the first points of contact people will have with you.
In addition to the experience, the brand story is another important element in connecting to your customer. So let's review some ways that you can share a brand story.
Number one, why you? Your why is the reason you do anything in your business. So you can take time after this is over or right now and write out 1 to 2 sentences that describes what inspires what you do and what the work that you do is and how you would actually explain that to your audience. Maybe you you make some type of product that has a very unique story behind it. Are you really articulating that and not assuming that everybody understands that?
So what she kind of means by that is, instead of saying, well, as an example, I'm a visual artist. Well, that doesn't really paint a picture. I'm a 3D artist that uses recycled materials to bring awareness to the problems of waste going into the ocean. That's very specific, right? Mm-hmm. It starts painting a picture of the kind of things that you represent and maybe the kind of materials that you use.
Number 2, the moment it all changed. So think about what has compelled you to be right here and right now with your business and take time to articulate that defining moment. I know our story is that we used to be previous educators, mm-hmm. right? And we had a passion for the arts, and that's kind of what led us here in a very simplified way. But we often retell that story to other people and then find out they didn't know we were teachers. And so I think that gives people a different look and perspective about who we are.
Yeah, and if I was going to bounce off the same story that we were just talking about the eco-conscious artist, maybe the moment that it all changed for them is they were walking on the beach with some friends and they found a sea turtle, and the sea turtle was caught up in a net, and maybe it had, it was choking on a piece of garbage. I mean, that's kind of a
But they saved it, right?
But they saved it.
Okay,
but they saved it. So it's a pivotal moment. But that's when it all changed, and people can relate to that. Mm-hmm. Say, oh my God, I would do that too.
Yes. So what makes you special? So start thinking about what differentiates you from everyone else. So I want you to know that even if you are could be an oversaturated niche, right? There's still something that's still very unique about you. I know we've taught many workshops before, and somebody actually asked us a very specific question about mm-hmm. that, how they said they were in a very specific or a very oversaturated niche, and they were, how do I actually take time to make myself different from everyone else? So a good example I think we always go back to is like fitness, right?
Yeah, I was going to say,
like
fitness?
Everybody's in fitness, right? From the way that you eat, from the way that you diet, from the way that you work out. And so we were telling them, take time to think about your unique stories that have led you to where you are. That is not something that anyone else can repeat, because you start to become very specific, from maybe something from childhood to when you were in college to what led you to that career path. Those are all unique stories, and people will respond and also want to know more about you from that.
And also from this point of view, if you've been doing all your due diligence and actually creating this picture and painting this picture for people, imagine how much less pressure you have to feel to actually sell, because you've already done a lot of the work. They already know the path that they're walking
Wonderful
to.
Point.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be like, okay, today I'm going to sell you this. You don't have to do any of that. If you're already like, you set the sidewalk, they're on their way. At the end, you just have to close the sale. And if your brand experience and the user experience is set up for you, you already did the back work. It's going to make it that much easier.
That's the whole point. She made a nice whole point of this whole presentation.
I'm trying to.
So the fourth thing is your audience. So think about, like we mentioned before, think about their basic needs, wants, desires. And I know fears might sound strange, but the fear could be that they're not accomplishing enough in the day, or they have time paralysis, Think about those kind of fears, and all of this knowledge is what you will base your storytelling on.
Right. If you're fixing something, if your product or service is helping alleviate one of those fears, I mean, that is more than anything. I mean, like, let's just use an example of when the pandemic first hit, how Peloton went sky high because everybody wanted to still work out. They couldn't go see anyone. So everybody was like, okay, now I don't have to be fearful. I can go buy my equipment at home. Or just even like your health in general. Maybe someone had a heart attack. They have to lower their blood pressure, and they know that working on a certain diet is going to help them achieve the longevity of their life. It's as simple as that, really, that you have to start dissecting your business to see what it is that you are contributing to their happiness and wellness,
So really now we're at this point is when you want to really create an action plan, right? You want to create an action where you've sold the experience of who you are and your story and your background and how you got there, like Jessica said, on that sidewalk, right?
Yeah, we just paint the picture of you're on the sidewalk and now you're going to reach the door. How do you get them to buy?
And so creating an action plan is a way you can create now a call to action, right? And so a way to do that is to give some type of free resource out. And so I want you to be open to that idea, because you might think, well, I'm in an industry where free resource doesn't apply. Like maybe an artist is thinking, how do I create a free resource?
Can I interject?
Good.
Of course you can.
Give me an example.
A good thing that you could be doing is teaching someone how you possibly create your artwork, or you could be sharing resources on the best way to find art supplies, or maybe tutorials, or maybe you could be curating different resources that you love to share with people that are maybe in your niche that they should also be following. You're giving of your knowledge base and of your time, so then people in return will do the same for you. It's basically a nice give and take of a relationship. You're not just going hand over the money.
Yes, and the point is that this will help people see your authenticity and trust you to take the next step.
Right.
And so if you're thinking that you hate the idea of selling right now, or it makes you feel very uncomfortable that even you've gotten these people on the sidewalk and you're still maybe feeling very uncomfortable, some things to consider is that selling products or services is a reason your business exists. And so we don't want you to feel nervous. So if you know what your business does is of actual help to your customer, then focus your energy on that. Think about all the good that your product or your service is doing for them to actually help them. Rather than thinking about, I'm closing a sale, I'm actually helping X, Y, and Z in their life. And now I'm taking out the fear of like having to be the salesperson.
Right. And if you are constantly just thinking about like exactly what you're saying, you have it in your mind, you walk in the door, I have to make the sale, I have to do this. You're not going to do it, because then your fear and your emotions are going to be at the forefront of what these people are seeing. So if you're seeing like, I'm going to help you, and that's what your goal is, that's what they're in turn going to feel. Sorry.
I just had a little thought in my mind, and this is a tactic that hopefully no one that buys from us knows about, but I'm going to share with you right now, is that, and I'm telling you, you have to have this in your mind when you do certain things. And I'm maybe it's not going to work all the time, but I will say that when you feel too desperate to make that sale,
Amen.
even though in the back of your mind you say, this is my only chance of survival to make this one sale, you can't come off that level of desperation. You have to have this exude confidence, right? Confidence in you, your product, and what it's going to do for them. And so I think we can all think of times where we saw a level of desperation come out. And maybe the people that were selling didn't even realize, like psychologically, that it was even happening to them, because they just feel the desperation. So they're talking desperate, right?
So true.
But I will say what has helped me do sales is that I have a level of confidence about what I'm doing. And even if I'm fearful, I will kind of keep that in the back of my mind.
Well, you believe in your product or service. You believe that you are helping people. You are connecting with the people and making real relationships that have lasted years and years and years.
Well, the point is that I am going into it with a certain mindset, right? And even if I want to close the sale desperately, I'm like, I got to make this work. I got to close this sale. You kind of act like, well, whether it works out or not, I'm going to be fine anyways.
Oh, yeah. What we always say is, even though it's no right now, it doesn't mean it's no forever, right? Because it might be, and this has happened to us before, oh, we weren't prepared for X, Y, and Z, but now we are. And now we want to work with you. To truly be successful is the ability to evolve and adapt. Isn't that so true with everything? Just be okay with your success being, what is it, the drawing, they always say success looks like this. It's never linear.
Or like they just show like a uphill battle. Like it's just so simple, but it's just like this huge squiggly line. Yeah, it is. And it's understandable that you don't want to come off pushy, like I was just making mention to. So this is most often because you think selling can become intrusive, right? Instead of being helpful. But if you really think about the help that you're providing to someone, you no longer are now selling. You're just talking about what you love.
And marketing really does involve using buyer psychology, which is understanding how your buyer thinks and turning that into stories that get them interested in what you have to offer. And if we break it down in what we were talking about before, just it being like basic relationships, when you're meeting someone that you're like, I really want to be friends with them, I'm really into them, you're going to be approaching it as, well, I want them to know that I'm interested in them. I'm going to talk to them in a kind of way that I want to learn more about them, right? Because you're exuding that like, hey, I really like hanging out with you. I want to see you again next time. It really is like dating, right? It's going back and forth.
So you can think about, why do people buy? If you're not a salesman, and you're helping people to invest, solve, or help give them a solution to what they need, and you are going to be of service to them.
Very simple ways of thinking about this.
One way to do this is to create integrity-based selling. So on a very simplistic way, it's just being confident in what you know, because you do know it, and you stay focused on the knowledge you have and how this makes you different from your competitors, right? So you can say, you might, like we said, oversaturated niches. You use that story to say, well, here's what makes a difference. This makes me laugh about The Office when Michael Scott, if any Office fans out there, he would always sell. And the way that he would differentiate he was such a good salesperson, even though he was like a bumbling idiot all the time, but he was a good salesman. And he would say, well, we might have the pizzazz of a big company, but we have the personal customer service of a small company. He would always find a way to pull it in and pull what it was a negative into a positive, which makes a good salesperson.
When you focus on yourself, right, and your own expertise and your own level of knowledge, this becomes the gap of knowledge, where you are now bridging that gap between you and what you know and what they want to know. In your marketing and your storytelling planning, you want to build that bridge that addresses that gap. And once you do that, the beauty is that they're going to remember you. And that if you keep doing it well, they might actually start seeking your services or products to bridge other gaps, which is coincidentally what's happened to us, don't you think?
Absolutely. And this made me think of something where, look, it's not as simple as just, I made this knowledge gap well known. Why isn't everyone buying? Well, there's something in sales that sometimes is like the rule of 7. This is obviously an undefined rule, but you have to see somebody's product 7 times before you decide to make a purchase. So just think about that with yourself. Now, when you say, well, why would Coca-Cola or why would large companies continue to advertise? Because they want you to have the memory flashing inside of your brain because it works, right? And so think about as a small business owner, how that can apply. Well, we're going to make some type of free resource. So maybe you have a blog or a podcast or a video, you're making that podcast. Oh, I put out a free resource. Oh, I'm on social media talking. Oh, I just put out a blog. Oh, I just got an email. Oh, I just saw that same blog again. Oh, you know what? Now I'm going to go click and see what they have to offer. I mean, that could be weeks to months to maybe a year. So what I'm trying to say is that even though we're oversimplifying the process, it can take some time, but also we don't want to intimidate you either.
And it's not like any of this is wasting your time. Because when you were talking about Coca-Cola, it sparked my thought of just like, if you look up any of their advertising for the holidays, there's a reason why they create the characters to get people to think of Coca-Cola when Christmas time is coming around. There's a reason why they have a 4-story building in Orlando with just Coca-Cola products. There's a reason why they do it. It's so then you can keep constantly thinking about them and thinking about all the feelings that you get, right? Because what's the knowledge gap that you're getting from Coke? It's the enjoyment, and it's the nostalgia, the mission that they are, it's refreshing, whatever it is. Even if it tastes like complete garbage to you, you might still have a better association with that soda than any other soda because of all the pictures that they're painting around the brand.
We should probably start working for Coca-Cola. I think we're really selling this.
I love Coke. Also, when you focus on your expertise, you do things authentically and with integrity, and it might seem repetitive, but you need to keep repeating and refining your stories and your message. So you learn to create content, you build the credentials, and you grow an audience. It really is as simple as that. And really, we repeat ourselves a lot, but we change, or we use different examples all the time.
Yeah, and take a notice to people you like, and start to notice that they repeat probably some pillars of content all the time, even if it's resaid or redone in a different way. Why are they repeating it? Because they want to be the people that have the knowledge base in that field. And if they start to talk about 75 different pillars, now you're not remembering them for those 3 things or 5 things they want to be known for, right? So start thinking about how you can do that as well.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway we can do today as we're starting the new year and trying to refocus our energies on positive things and on our own growth. Really start dissecting why you feel some kind of way about certain people, certain influencers, certain brands, and start dissecting now that you know what to kind of look for in their story, in their mission. What path are they creating for you to go finally reach at the end and possibly purchase their items or purchase their services or whatever it is? That's what you need to start dissecting for yourself as we begin the new year.
Mm-hmm.
So I really hope that in 2022, you guys can pay attention to your own success and your own business and create all of the narrative that you want for yourselves.
Absolutely. And the whole point of the Create Disruption series was to help you reflect and find ways that you can take what other people are doing outside of your industry and apply it to yourself. So now take time for yourself and get yourself ready for the next year, and you can do it.
See you next year.
Bye-bye.
Bye.